Welcome to Q&ASMR. Hello, I'm glad you can make it. These questions are brought to me by listeners like you. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy. Our first question comes from SkyGuy91. Have any Green Lanterns retired? That is a good question. For those that might not be comic book fans, Green Lantern's rings are passed down when their owner dies. The ring then flies off into the cosmos to find a new wearer. I do not know if Green Lanterns can choose to retire and give up their rings willingly. Let's find out. Oh boy, that was hard to find. Across 5 different wikis, I did eventually find evidence that, yes, some Green Lanterns have retired. From what I could find, 13 of them have left or refused the service of the Green Lantern Corps by a method other than being killed. To be fair, DC has reset their timeline and or their universe a couple of times, so it's possible that this is an incomplete list. Let's start with the actual retirees. First is Okonoko, Green Lantern of Sector 1110. He stayed a Green Lantern long enough to train his replacement, then retired. He did eventually return to the Corps to help fight the Anti-Monitor, so he may no longer be retired. Next up would be Bryn, Green Lantern of Sector 1324. He was forced to retire by the Guardians of Oa. After nearly dying in combat, he was asked to step down so that a replacement could take over. He returned home to be with his wife and children. Yes, he is a horse. Finally, we have Matu and Amni Pri, Green Lanterns of Sector 35, a married couple chosen at their wedding ceremony to join the Corps. Due to an incident involving their newborn child, the Guardians of Oa instated a rule to forbid relationships within the Green Lantern Corps. This caused both Matu and Amni to resign so that they could raise their child together. There is a secret 5th retiree, Tuk, or perhaps Tuk, Green Lantern of Sector 1287. Another member that was asked to retire by the Guardians of Oa, this time after the events of Crisis on Infinite Earths. While searching for his replacement, he found a hive mind that was not quite sentient enough to actually join the Green Lantern Corps. However, this species gained the knowledge, personality, and abilities of those they absorbed. So, Tuk sacrificed himself and his lantern battery to be absorbed by the hive mind species, thus granting them the necessary qualifications to become a true Green Lantern. Because his death was also his retirement, this Green Lantern never officially retired. There are also a few temporary wielders of Green Lantern rings who, for whatever reason, gave up the power after a time. Some of them are considered to have retired, while others are not. The official canon is unclear. This is as many as I could find. First, Donna Parker, Green Lantern of Sector 2814, Earth's sector. Donna was a single mother whose husband was killed in the Korean War. She finds a Green Lantern ring while trying to save one of her children from drowning in a frozen lake. After successfully saving her child, the Guardians of Oa approach her about joining. She refuses, citing her husband's death while in the service, and gives up the ring. Donna is considered to have been a Green Lantern and retired, but I find this a bit questionable as she never joined the Corps. Next is Daniel Young, Deputy Green Lantern of Sector 2814. In this 1800s Western story, Abin Sur, predecessor to Hal Jordan, is wounded and crash lands on Earth. While he is healing inside his ship, he deputizes Daniel to wield his ring for a time. Daniel uses the ring to round up some troublemakers in his town before the ring flies off, presumably back to Abin Sur. Similarly, there's Perdue, Green Lantern of Sector 2234. He was given temporary control of a Green Lantern ring while his sector's current lantern was healing. The ring chose him for this because, unlike the rest of his species, he lacked fear. His species are chickens, literally. Purdue gave back the ring when the fight was over and its owner was fully healed. However, when the Guardians of Oa added a second Green Lantern to each sector, Purdue was chosen once again, making him a full member of the Corps. An interesting final case, Tyrannar, Green Lantern 003. The third ever Green Lantern gives his ring to Simon Baz, another Green Lantern from Earth, effectively retiring. This involves some time travel, so it's hard to say exactly when this happens, as Simon does at different times also have rings from Hal Jordan and Sinestro. Anyway, Tyrannar is the guardian of the tomb where the other original Green Lanterns are buried, and is currently seeking their original rings. It appears that even though he gave away his ring, he still serves the Green Lanterns. Alright, now we get to some kind of weird ones. The simplest of these is Anya Savenlovich, cosmonaut of the new Green Lantern Corps. During the time that Kyle Rayner was the only Green Lantern, he attempted to create the new Green Lantern Corps. As part of his search for members, he found a cryogenically frozen Soviet astronaut, Anya. However, this team is quickly disbanded by Kyle after a disastrous mission, meaning that she never really retired as much as the job stopped existing. On to Vidar, or Universo, former Green Lantern of the 30th century. A villain to the Legion of Superheroes in the far future, his background was originally unconnected to the Green Lanterns. In later stories, it is revealed that Universo was a former member of the Green Lanterns, and was removed for some reason. As far as I can tell, he was tasked to stop the Legion of Supervillains from viewing the beginning of time, and while successful, he viewed it instead, which the Guardians of Oa punished him for by kicking him out. This is also not a retirement per se, but the details are pretty sparse. Also banished from the Corps is Sinestro, Green Lantern of Sector 1417. Better known by most as a Yellow Lantern, Sinestro started as a Green Lantern. He is eventually banished from the Corps and stripped of his ring after using his power to subjugate his home planet, making himself their dictator. This is also not a retirement, but Sinestro is the most notable non-dead former member of the Green Lanterns, so it felt wrong not to include him. Finally, we come to Green Lantern of Sector 904. A moral purist, quit the Green Lantern Corps because she did not view the Guardians of Oa to be the highest moral authority. As such, she found it harder and harder to listen to their orders or follow their rules, and eventually decided to leave the Corps. This could have been framed as a retirement, I suppose, but in almost all mentions of her story, she is listed as having quit the Green Lanterns rather than retire. Finally, there is a story wherein the entire Green Lantern Corps is stripped of their powers, making basically all of them retire. Many of them die in the vacuum of space, and many more are captured and sold into slavery, but it is murky as to which ones rejoin the service when the Corps is eventually reestablished, and which ones don't. Thank you for that wild question. I'm glad I was able to find an answer. Our next question comes from Buzzard Darkday. How many asteroids are there in our asteroid belt? An excellent question. I have to assume it's a lot, but let's see if science has an answer for us. I guess before we look at that, we should talk a little bit about the difference between an asteroid, a comet, and a meteor. Comets are made from ice and dust, and it is the vaporizing of that ice that creates the iconic tails that comets have when we observe them. Asteroids, on the other hand, are mostly rock or metallic objects found primarily, but not exclusively, in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Meteoroids are small, pebble-sized pieces of asteroids or comets, often created by some kind of collision. When these get close to Earth, especially when they enter the atmosphere, we call them meteors. If they survive the descent down to Earth, we call what remains a meteorite. So, how many rocky and or metallic objects, larger than pebbles, are there in our asteroid belt? Millions. It's hard to know for certain, given how small these things can be, but our latest estimates show there are somewhere between 1.1 and 1.9 million asteroids of at least 1 kilometer in diameter in the asteroid belt. NASA's website simply states that there are millions of smaller asteroids in the belt, but gives no clear indication on how many millions there might be. And this distribution kind of makes sense, right? As asteroids get hit, they break apart into smaller pieces, which are then smaller targets and less likely to get hit and break any further. Thank you so much for that question. Our final question comes from Luke Blackthorn. How many different kinds of shield are there? That is a good question. I guess if we're going to do swords, we might as well do shields too. Let's start with the modern shields you're likely to see in today's society, of which there are 3. The riot shield is typically a polycarbonate shield used by police and some military forces. It is designed to cover the torso of an average-sized person, but can come in many shapes and sizes. They are typically shatter-resistant, but not bullet-resistant. The ballistic shield is the upgraded version of the riot shield, often being larger and with more protective power. Sometimes called a tactical shield or a bulletproof shield, these shields offer more protection from bullets and other projectiles. Because of their more specialized use, they are typically only brought out when a standard riot shield would not be enough protection. And finally, there's the human shield. Not a shield in the standard way, this tactic places a third, often innocent party between the attacker and the defender. Human shields are not always forced either. Many non-violent protests would not have succeeded without the use of volunteers to stand between the authorities and the protesters. Alright, now on to the more generic terms for shields. Many cultures have specific names for the shields their soldiers use, but in most cases, they can be described as one of these. The round shield seems to be the most prevalent among shield types, being used by the Greeks, the Vikings, the Mayans, the Celts, and many, many more. These shields could be made out of any material of the day, but were typically wood with metal coverings or leather. This type of shield was quite versatile, often used for shield wall tactics, blocking, bashing, and parrying at different points in history. The buckler is a much smaller shield that is held in the fist, used more for parrying, bashing, and blocking blades than for blocking projectiles. It rose in popularity in the medieval and Renaissance eras. There are 3 shape classifications of buckler: round, rectangular or trapezoidal, and ovular or teardrop, along with 4 cross-sectional classifications: flat, concave, convex, and wavy. The type of buckler you were using was defined by which combination of shape and curvature your shield had. The kite shield was named for its relatively similar shape to that of the flying kite. Also referred to as almond-shaped or leaf-shaped, these shields are rounded at one end and pointed at the other. This shape afforded more specific protection to the user's vital regions, while also extending a bit of protection to their legs. It is theorized that this type of shield may have been favored by soldiers on horseback, as the shield would cover the entire left side of your person while in the riding position, which a round shield would not. Similarly shaped, the heater shield is a more compact version of the kite shield. This is the classic medieval shield, flat top with squared corners leading down into a curved bottom. Due to advances in leg armor, shields no longer needed to stretch all the way down a person's torso to offer them full protection. As armor got better and better, shields became a little less necessary, so the heater shield evolved into a specialized jousting shield. Finally, the term heater shield is actually derived from Victorian-era antiquarians, who named the shield as such due to its resemblance to the shape of a clothes iron. Known in some pop culture circles as a tower shield, this actually describes a concept of a full-body covering shield, usually as tall as or taller than a person. In the Roman army, this was known as a scutum, the classic legionnaire's shield. It was tall, square, and lightly rounded to help deflect projectiles and blows. The pavis is a version of this used in the Middle Ages by archers and crossbowmen. It was carried with them into battle and then set up in front of their firing position to provide them with some cover. It was characterized by a central convex ridge down its center. This concept of the shield for archers actually goes back as far as the Assyrians, though I could not find any specific name for these styles. These next four shields have unique shapes, but their style appears not to have spread much further than their region of origin. The pelta was a crescent-shaped shield used by peltasts in the Greek army. Its shape allowed for the use of javelins or spears without fear of bashing your own shield. Because of their lighter equipment, peltasts were able to maneuver around the battlefield more easily than their more heavily armored foes. The glagua is a bell-shaped shield, typically made of leather. It was invented by the Wandala people of northern Cameroon, and did see some use in other African tribes, but was primarily used by its inventors. The Nguni shield is an oval-shaped shield with a rigid pole running through its center. Their uses were multifaceted, being used in combat, obviously, but also being used in wedding ceremonies, as cover from the sun, in dance routines, by diviners. Of all the shields we've so far discussed, this one appears to have the most cultural significance to its people. This shield is typically made of animal hide and is the classic Zulu shield, and often the only protection used by Nguni people in battle. For a slightly more modern take, it is the shield used by T'Challa in his duel against M'Baku in Marvel's Black Panther. Lastly, the parrying shield is just that. A shield designed to parry your opponent's attacks. Developed by the Aboriginal peoples of Australia and the surrounding Pacific Islands, these shields appear to be one part shield, one part weapon. I was hesitant to put them on this list, as they are sometimes called war clubs rather than parrying shields, but they are technically shields, so here we are. So, it appears that there are 13 different types of shield, without considering region-specific names or material difference. Thank you so much for that question. Thank you again to SkyGuy91, Buzzard Dark Day, and Luke Blackthorn. If you would like to have your question answered in a video, leave it in a comment below this one. If you would prefer to ask your question a little more privately, you can email me your question at questionsandasmr@gmail.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more questions like these every week. Thanks again for listening. Goodbye for now.